Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be tracking two different severe weather setups. The first setup will be happening tomorrow across parts of the Midwest. Could bring in damage and winds, maybe a QLCS tornado threat, and also some hail as well. Then by Sunday, the severe weather risk focus, at least more into Sunday night, I should say, gets more focused into parts of the Arkansas vicinity, and it moves into Monday across parts of Dixie Alley, maybe as far north as parts of the lower Ohio Valley as well. We'll also talk a little bit more about that major cold air blast that could be coming in late next week as well. Before we get started on this video, if you guys would like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll definitely be having more updates on these events as well. So definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. So we're going to get started with the store prediction center outlook here. Not going to be a whole lot going on today other than some thunder across parts of the Midwest, Central Plains, even back into parts of the desert Southwest. At least they're getting some rain down there as well. But day two, which is tomorrow, we got slackers for severe weather pretty much right around the Iowa vicinity with a marginal risk that looks to be expanded a little bit further east and west as well. So the risk area for severe weather tomorrow has certainly got a little bit larger as well. There is a tornado risk with this here. There's a 5% tornado risk for most of Iowa, far eastern Nebraska. That goes all the way up into parts of far southeastern Minnesota and far southwestern Wisconsin. And even with that 2% tornado risk, there's still a tornado risk out there, but it's very low. Damage and winds and hail will be your primary threats out there as well. Then on day three, which is Sunday, we got slight risk for severe weather from southeastern Oklahoma, far northeastern Texas, through most of Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, into far western Tennessee. Then on day four, which is Monday, we got slight risk for severe weather for the northern half of Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Tennessee, far eastern Arkansas, and maybe far northwestern Georgia as well. This outlook here will be more detailed by tomorrow as it gets into the day three outlook as well. That severe weather risk potential could get as far north, like I said, parts of central Kentucky. Things are looking a little bit more interesting for Monday as well. Well, most of these days are anyway. So we're going to get started with the first day here, which is tomorrow, up and across parts of Iowa. This is the latest HER model, and you can see here, this is by Saturday evening, and what we got going on. We actually got a couple of storms, especially it's got one big storm going on. That could be a supercell rolling through western Iowa. Now, keep in mind, this is just a simulation. It's not going to look exactly what it shows here. But regardless, it does shows that potential for maybe a supercell or two out there in western Iowa. Certainly, the environment is looking a little bit better than some of its previous runs as well. If we actually check out dew points here, this, like I said, was becoming one of the limiting factors. The dew point numbers are actually a little bit higher today. We're actually talking a bit to upper 50s now, even some isolated around 60 as well for some areas as well. This is your low pressure system back here. You got your cold front. Let me see here. Let me move this down here. So your cold front is actually still back here. This is where your cold front is in reality. But what this is right here is a dry line, which we'll make it color yellow. This is your dry line right here, and this is where your storms are going to form along, is that dry line. Here's your warm front right up here. So this is going to be a pretty dynamic system here. You got a dry line here, you got a cold front back here, and you also got your warm front. So this is going to be a pretty good severe weather setup. And really, then again, where the storms are going to be forming, at least the ones we really need to pay attention closely, will be the ones along the dry line. And especially when you're closer to the low, with closer to that triple point, is where we could see the better potential for some severe weather, including tornadoes, could be near that triple point. And you can see here how that low continues to move off to the east and northeast, and eventually that cold front does catch up with the dry line as well by that point later in the day. Let's check out some other gradients. We'll check out 0 to 3 kilometer Cape. This is a pretty good ingredient here when it comes to tornadoes. And you can see here the numbers are actually pretty high. You got numbers that's at least 200 out there. Even what I consider a good environment when it comes to numbers like this is probably at least 100. That'd be pretty good. We're actually going to double that number, so this would be pretty good for the potential for tornadoes out there as well. And here's surface-based cape, and there's some pretty good amount of cape out there as well. With cape values are anywhere from 1,000 to as close as 2,000 joules per kilogram. So there could be a lot of cape out there for this time of year as well. So this could turn out to be a pretty decent severe weather setup. However, areas out ahead of it will probably cap. There's also quite a bit of sign in out there as well, out ahead of all this as well. So that's something that should be noted. What's interesting is how the Hermal likes to continue with that 1,000+ joules per kilogram cape getting into northern Illinois, parts of southern Wisconsin. I think that's going to be a little bit overdone if I'm going to be honest with you. I still do believe there's going to be a decent amount of cape out there, but I don't think we're going to really see 1,000+ joules per kilogram. It just doesn't seem very realistic to me, especially if it's in the middle of the night on Sunday. But regardless if it's higher or lower, there's still going to be a severe weather risk as you continue to move off to the east as well. If we go to a different site here, if we actually check out the significant tornado parameters, so really over a 1, that's a conditional tornado threat. If it's over a 2, you may have the potential for a stronger tornado as well. And you can see it's got some pretty high numbers out there, but then again, you're near your triple point would be the area to watch here for your better potential for a tornado threat as well. If you did look back on reflectivity, it didn't show much away as thunderstorms developing south of that, which honestly I think there could be some more storms down along that dry line as well. Probably getting as far south as maybe northern Missouri as well. But if we do get a couple soundings out there, if we get near that triple point, you can see here, this is another thing too that we do need to pay attention to is that it shows a potential for a cap. And what a cap is, that's a warm air, a thin air of warm air in the upper level. So right around 850 millibars, so that's about 2,500 feet above our heads. And shower thunderstorms cannot form through that. There's other things on here too, like there's a pretty nice elevated mixed layer, which is dry air in mid levels, which can lead to strong updrafts. So if the updrafts are going to be very strong, there might be a chance it could break through this cap here as well. It's going to be interesting to see. You also do notice here, the lap rates are going to be pretty strong too in the mid levels. So any storm that forms out there is able to blow for that cap, has the potential to produce some large hail. Even for David Wins as well, downdraft cape is actually close to 1,000. You really only need above 800. That'd be favorable for damaging winds. You also then again got decent amount of wind shear out there, a good amount of cape. So this is if there wasn't a cap here, this would be a really good sounding here for all hazards. You got the tornado threat, you got a decent hodograph. It's not a very large hodograph, but still favorable for maybe an isolated tornado. Good cape, downdraft cape is good. Strong lap rates. I mean, dew points is lacking a little bit, but still with upper 50s, you can still get storms in upper 52 points. But the better numbers will be at least 60. But overall, Iowa, I'll say your bust potential will probably have to be if this cap here stays pretty strong. And like I was mentioning, if you were watching on the March and spring forecast, I was mentioning about that drought further out to the west, and with that stronger drought, it could lead to some capping events. And you can see here up in Iowa, here's a cap right here, and it can also bring, a stronger elevated mix layer. Dry air in the mid levels could lead to stronger updrafts. This is what we see right here. When the green line is far apart from the red line, that's dry air in the upper levels. So, and that can lead to stronger updrafts. This is exactly what we're seeing here. So, and we could see more events like this in the future as well. So that's something that should be noted as well. You can see how your Pacific Victoria prayers stay pretty elevated, especially when you get to northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. But then again, it does show it to be decently capped, if I'm correct anyway. No, it's actually not really capped. That could become a possibility as well, where it may stay capped early on and it could erode in the overnight hours, and any instability that's left could lead to some stronger storms as well further down the road. But if we don't see that cap early on, that does decrease severe weather chances for areas a little further east as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see. But I will still pay attention to um, parts of western Iowa, especially in this area right here, closer to that triple point. We could see a couple storms up there, and those could have the better potential to produce some tornadoes, damaging winds, and even some large hail as well. So for severe weather setup tomorrow, it's definitely something to keep an eye on as well. That cold front does continue to push farther to the south. That leads to Sunday. If we move to the high-res NAM, you can see here peak time heating on Sunday evening. There's a decent amount of CAPE out there, 1,000 plus joules per kilogram. If we get a sounding out there in central Arkansas, you kind of lead to a little bit of an issue, which actually in this case here, it's not, it actually shows some good wind shear, better than I thought here. What I was going to say is that there's not going to be a whole lot of wind shear. Things like the hardest NAM's a little bit more aggressive with the wind shear out there, but it's got a pretty decent amount of CAPE out there. Downdraft CAPE is alright, but there is some good mid-level lap rates, so that'd be favorable for some stronger updrafts. Wind direction of height out there. There's also a little hodograph there that can support a low-end tornado risk as well. So any storm that could form in this type of environment may have the potential to have all hazards. But I should note that this is what could look like if there was not much convection out there. If you're not going to have much convection, this could lead to higher instability values and stuff like that. But then again, the higher dam does tend to be underdone when it comes to reflectivity, which whenever I check the reflectivity, it doesn't show a whole lot of activity out here. And honestly, I have to kind of disagree with that as well. We've seen this many times in the past where the higher dam was actually underdone with the coverage of the convection out there as well. So I'm not sure how I really feel about this solution, but either way, it does show a pretty decent risk for some strong and severe storms out there as well, including the threat of all hazards. You can see as you get deeper to the overnight hours, as expected, those instability values do decrease as well. And even by 6Z Monday morning, there's still a decent amount of instability out there as well, which is interesting. And like I was saying, when it comes to reflectivity, may as well show you guys this really quick of what I mean here. And if this here can load, you can see here, here's the storms up north here, and actually does show some better storms up there for the high-res NAM. And again, like I said here, not a whole lot of activity out here. And then again, like I said here, even though it shows some activity out here, but like I was saying earlier, it does have a tendency to be underdone with convection. I imagine there could still be more convection than what is showing here, but it's kind of an interesting solution. Plus, there's still plenty more time for changes as well. Here, and that's the max in. That's the end of the run as well. Well, it's actually going to move on to the NAM. And you can see here, decent amount of visibility out here, but if you go to reflectivity, not a whole lot of activity out here. And then again, like I said earlier, it's probably going to be underdone with the coverage, so that can lead to lower instability values. It seems like it has trended a little bit stronger with the wind shear as well, just a little bit. This is a pretty decent low of a jet out there, so that could lead to some decent wind shear values. But it also should be noted that it usually is overdone, too amped with the system, in other words, it's usually a little bit too strong with the system. It also takes a little bit further to overtrack here, which as we get deeper into the overnight hours, you can see there's a strong low of a jet fur up north. But like I said earlier, though, it does have the tendency to be too amped with the system, so I think this is going to be overdone with the low jet. I'm pretty interested to see when the hard model comes in range because it does handle a lot of this stuff here better than the NAM family. That's why I didn't show the NAM family much with the first setup because they're probably not going to handle it very well. Anyway, with the NAM solution, it's got a much more amped system. Of course, with a more amped system, you got a stronger low level jet out there. You got a strong low level jet of 80 plus knots. That's pretty strong out there for a low level jet. At the same time, if you look at the dew points, there's actually some good dew points out there. And it's also pretty widespread for those 60 plus dew points as well. If we go to reflectivity, it does show a squall line of storms along that front as well. As you get later in the day, that does continue to move off to the east. And it does bring that severe weather risk a little bit further south into parts of Dixie Alley as well. But then again, I think it's going to be too amped with the system. It's also going to be underdone the convection. So we'll probably have to take this solution here probably as a grain of salt for right now. But here's instability, and you can see there's a decent amount of instability out there as well, even in the morning hours too. Monday morning, that's still a pretty good amount of instability. I mean, 700 plus joules per kilogram of CAPE in the morning hours on Monday, that's That's pretty good. And you can see here as you kind of get down to Dixie Alley, you do see numbers that it's at least 1,000 plus joules per kilogram of CAPE as well. If we look into those significant tornado parameters, like I said earlier, at least a 1, a favorable environment for a tornado, at least a 2 could be favorable for a stronger tornado as well. And early on, where it has quite a bit of instability and good wind shear, of course, you're going to get some high numbers out there in southern Missouri. I think those numbers are going to be too high. But you get deeper to the night here, Monday morning, along that cold front, it's got a pretty decent risk here. Probably going to be more in the way if it's going to be more of a squall line event. I think it's going to be more of QLCS tornado, so I don't think we'll see strong tornadoes out of it if it's just going to be mainly a squall line. But if we get a sounding out there, you see a decent amount of wind shear out. Well, there's actually a good amount of wind shear. Lap rate, so it's not too bad either. If you do get lap rates between 6.5 to a 7, that's still not bad either. Downdraft CAPE, close to 800, so that's a decent number for damaging winds. You do have an elevated mix layer in the mid levels, and the holograph is also good as well. So in this sounding here, this will be favorable for damaged winds, maybe an isolated tornado or two, mainly going to be QLCS since it's on reflectivity. Like I said earlier, it doesn't handle it very well, but if it's correct, this will be more of a QLCS tornado event as well. But we'll have to wait and see where trends go towards on Monday. As when you can see here, the thing about this is you get deeper into Monday, the Lova jet does back off a little bit as well, which in this case here, still got a decent Lova jet out there. But like I said earlier, being too ample the system, it's probably going to be a little bit of overkill with the Lova jet. So it's probably going to be weaker than when it shows here. That's something I should note there as well. But there's still plenty of time for changes. This is still a couple days away, but we'll definitely be monitoring the trends on these severe weather setups very closely here over the next couple of days. All right, let's check out the GFS model here. So if we kind of back this up a little bit, there is going to be a winter storm behind this system right here on the first one, maybe across parts of South Dakota into central Minnesota. Could be a quick thumping snow as well, especially when the system does reach its peak in strength. And here comes your couple of short waves here. Here's your first low up in Ohio. The second low is starting to come up further off to the southwest. You also do notice there again, showers of storms training over the same areas. That could lead to some flooding problems. I think it's going to be a general 1 to 3 inches of rain at this point there, but there could be some isolated higher numbers out there as well. And it also does have some snow on the backside of it as well, especially for the parts of the interior northeast. But this is where things really get very interesting. So you do see this, you got this big wave coming in, moving for the Rockies by Wednesday night. And look at this. So this is getting into Friday morning or March 11th. You got 998 millibar low in northern Illinois. Got quite a bit of snow on the backside of it as well. This is actually going to be a rapidly deepening low, and it's got some serious cold air behind this. And look at all this cold air behind the system. So 988 millibar low up in the parts of southeastern Canada, and behind this is then again some serious cold air. That's a 504 line right there for you, which is an indication that this is some serious cold air. And this is more in the way of Arctic air as well. And here's a look into the European model. You can see here with these next couple systems here, does show a little bit of snow on the back side of both of those systems as well. And then again, very similar to GFS, you get a strong low that moves in with a very strong cold front, brings in a big surge of some very cold air for the eastern U.S. That's a massive trough here for this time of year. That trough digs as far south as the Gulf Coast, so this is a massive trough as well for this time of year. If we check out temperature anomalies, this is from the GFS ensembles. You can see here early on things are going to be mild, especially for parts of the eastern U.S. And then you can see here how things do turn cold. And then as you get into Wednesday, here comes your Arctic air back here. And look how this spills into the eastern U.S. And you can see here, those are some serious below normal anomalies, especially for a 20 member mean here. Gets a little bit better when you get to the European ensembles, and you'll see pretty much the same thing. Pretty much every single model has this signal here, so there's a pretty strong agreement out here. You got temperature anomalies, you got some models that show 30 degrees below average. So these are some well below normal anomalies here. So overall, really beginning on, I mean, look at the western U.S. I mean, that is some serious cold temperatures in the western U.S. That's 50 degrees below average for the European summers. That's pretty insane there. So a lot of people is going to experience this cold air. A lot of people. So basically, overall, what this means here, there is going to be a major cold blast that is likely going to be coming. Not just for the eastern U.S., but parts of the Central and even for parts of the western U.S. as well. It's going to get a serious shot of some Arctic air. So yeah, winter's not over yet, folks, and we'll have to wait and see how things go after that as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button if you do like my channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications, and then there's an upload. If you've got some questions about this, put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.